Hi, why can we only see some part of the electromagnetic spectrum? You know, the part called the visible light? It seems like there's just more available stuff out there, why can't we see them? Wouldn't it be cool to have some thermal vision or X-ray vision, seeing better at night with more wavelengths available to you? I recently did a video about this new study, a contact lens that lets you see near infrared light. But that just makes me question, why can't we already see these other wavelengths? It turns out it wouldn't be that much practical. Let's start from why we evolved in this way. Our main source of light is the sun. The solar radiation spectrum, aka the sunlight spectrum, have a wide range of wavelengths, but the most intense part is the part that we see. From 380 to 700 nanometers, sun is sending 42% of its photons to us. The other part is mostly infrared to us, which has higher wavelengths and lower energy. And the other part is ultraviolet, which is 5%. As you can see, just by supporting this narrow band of wavelengths, our eyes, our retina is able to see lots of information. And in the evolution process, we developed our eyes under the water. Most of the infrared light is reflected from the water and doesn't go that much deep underwater. So it makes sense when the first eyes were developed underwater, they were supporting the wavelengths that they could see. And because of our biology and water exists everywhere in the earth, it also exists in our eyes. So we still have to see through water. In short, if the water is not letting through these infrared wavelengths, that means you wouldn't be able to see what is in the water from outside of the water. And when you are in the water, it would seem foggy because water would be scattering around those wavelengths. A possible side note here would be all animals still want to be able to hunt in water, so it wouldn't make sense for us to just give up seeing what is in the water. But let's say we were able to see infrared light. What we would see is mostly the heat sources, which is everything because everything radiates some heat. During our daily lives, we are mostly seeing what is reflected from other objects. Only in the last decades we are just now adapting to seeing light sources like monitors, screens, which is okay because we are trying very hard to tune them for the better visibility. They are not just bright and random light sources. We have very precise dots and pixels in them, so the resulting picture we see is very suitable for our eyes. Seeing infrared light would be like being in a room full of lights. Don't look directly into your light bulbs right now, but when you're looking at a light source itself, it is just sending lots of random data to you which you cannot focus on. Even our eyes have its own heat, so essentially you would be seeing your own retina's brightness too. It would be very tricky to get past that. Also, here's another problem. The higher wavelengths you go, meaning the more you go towards the infrared light, the photons have lower energy. The way our retina cells work is, photons have enough energy to cause some chemical reactions in our eyes. They are tuned for specific wavelengths and for specific chemicals. So yes, maybe we could evolve into seeing infrared light, but probably we wouldn't go that much far from our current situation. Maybe evolution couldn't find any suitable chemicals for those lower energy photons. When we get to the ultraviolet light wavelengths, there's now another problem. The smaller wavelengths scattered more in our atmosphere. That is why the sky is blue. Blue color is closer to the UV part of the spectrum. When the sunlight enters the atmosphere, blue is scattered around more than red. It is actually inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength. So blue is scattered 10 times more than red, and UV light is scattered even more. So if you ever look through an UV camera, you can see that it looks foggy and hazy. So it would actually lower our view distance. Now it's not even helping us. The further we go, we are going to see X-rays and gamma rays. These are also not that much informative for us. They mostly don't even interact with the matter, and when they interact, they just cause more damage. So like we said earlier, it is better for us to see the reflected photons to understand an object in our vision. We would be just seeing the sun as a source, and we wouldn't be seeing what those wavelengths are interacting with. So would you have an X-ray vision? That would only work if the object is in between you and the sun. Only then you would be seeing that object under X-ray. That is also how the X-ray machines work. You have a source of X-ray particles, and you look from other side to the object in the middle. Practically we have some kind of a sensor on the other side or some kind of paper. What you see is some particles reaching the paper, and some particles got stuck at some dense tissues like bones. So that's why Superman's X-ray vision is tricky. If he is just able to perceive X-ray, then he is just seeing nothing, because there's not an X-ray source that he can use. And if he is creating the X-rays from his eyes, that would work of course, but now he is giving you cancer, because an X-ray machine works just a few milliseconds with a very focused directional light. On the other hand, when the Superman human is shooting his own X-ray from his eyes, he would have to rely on what is reflected back to him, which means he have to burst so much more X-ray particles. And to understand the results, assuming he don't have a saved file in his brain, he would be shooting X-rays for a longer time to keep looking at it. I'm giving a fictional character as an example here because I want you to be able to picture what you should expect from real life. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. UV and X-rays might sound cool, but these wavelengths are not good for us. They are already damaging our cells and causing diseases like cancer. UV lights and smaller wavelengths already cause damage to our retinas. This is why our eye lens is actually filtering the UV light for us. So our body is evolved in the opposite way. We don't want anything to do with the UV lights. The reason behind that is, like I said, the UV light is so damaging. It is breaking up the proteins in our cells. So it just doesn't work for us. Just let it go. Why are you insisting on seeing UV light anyway? Just like the X-rays and gamma rays. Also, the infrared wavelengths doesn't interact with the matter the way you want them to. Most of them just pass through matter. That's why we have Wi-Fi and radio stations. Yes, it gets blocked up to some point, but it mostly passes through. So once again, what you are going to do with that information, it just doesn't interact with what you are trying to see. Overall, it feels like our vision would be too crowded. You would be seeing too much information about everything, and some of them are blocked by different objects, different layers. I think we would evolve into having another eye maybe, or having some layers of retractable filters in our eyes. You know, actually that would be cool. I would have wanted that. Everyone wants night vision and thermal vision. What are you, 2105 years old? You know, this actually creates some different questions too. Some stars have different colors because they actually have different intense parts of the spectrum of them. That is mainly caused by their temperature. You can look up the black body radiation, also known as when I heat up something it glows. Heat it up more, it will glow in different colors. So maybe we would have evolved into a different visible spectrum, or aliens are seeing the space different than us. And when we go into other star systems in the future, we are going to see things different than they are. Maybe some living beings out there are evolved into seeing in darker conditions, or vice versa, brighter conditions. Maybe their atmosphere is filtering out the green that we can see, so they just gave up on seeing the green. At the end of the day, what we see is just a concept that our brain shows to us. We have around 120 million of rod cells in our eyes, which are just for seeing the brightness and the shapes. These rod cells are also just responding to this generic wavelength in the middle of our visible spectrum. On the other hand, we have 5 million of cone cells, which are telling us the colors red, green and blue, and they are only making the 5% of our retina cells by number. So actually we are seeing the world in a black and white shape. Then our brain is coloring the objects with the additional 5% information it has. We are looking at colors and saying, oh, that's a very beautiful flower. Why did you paint your wall to light gray? It doesn't fit your red carpet. You are using colored pens and making colorful presentations. Our brain is just trying to understand what it is looking at. Essentially, it is just for distinguishing between different wavelengths. So are we overthinking stuff? Should we have stayed as a fish in an ocean? No, why would you want that? In summary, seeing just a little bit more than what we are currently seeing might have worked for us, but we should avoid most of the spectrum. Some animals are seeing more than what we are seeing, but they didn't build the pyramids, do they? Like, probably they didn't build them, right? Did we build them? So what are your thoughts about this? Did I make the right points here? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please subscribe and thank you for listening.